Hi there, my name is Rosie and welcome to my channel. Welcome to this video. Thank you for joining me today. So I'm really excited about our topic for today, how to plan your first solo trip. Whether it's your first solo trip or you've been on one before but you would like more tips, this is the video for you. I'm really excited because I have lots of gems that I'm going to be throwing for you today, so keep watching. So, you want to plan a solo trip, but you're a little uncomfortable because you've never done it before. One of my biggest suggestions is to start small. So start with a domestic trip. Maybe the next city or the next state or within your country would be a good way to start. And then once you go on your first domestic solo trip and you kind of gain that confidence and you see how enriching it is, then I would suggest you do an international trip. If you're like me and you just want to jump right in, you want to go big the first time, I start with figuring out what type of vibe that I want to get from my trip. If I'm trying to go for like an adventure / naturey vacation, I might think of going to Hawaii or like Australia. If I'm looking for more beachy, scenic, relaxed vibes, I might choose to go to Mexico or Santorini. And that's going to help you decide what's going to be your destination. You're going to want to kind of think of your overall budget. So whether your budget is $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, you're going to want to bucket your destinations within that. Depending on what time of year that you choose to go on your trip, that's actually going to influence how expensive the destinations you go to are going to be. So if you have flexibility in choosing the dates or the time of year that you're going to go on your solo trip, that's going to give you just the ability to budget better when you're choosing your flights and your accommodations and like all the different things that you want to do on your trip. So next, I'm going to research the visa requirements. Now, the whole point of me going on a vacation is so I can de-stress. I'm not going to choose a place that's going to be stressful for me to enter. If I have to go through an entire lengthy process to obtain a visa or have all this stuff, I'm just not going to go. So think about the place that's going to be the easiest or most stress-free place to go. So I've chosen my top 3 destinations. Now what I'm gonna do is figure out which destination has the best accommodation. Now when it comes to accommodations, you have multiple options. You have hotels, Airbnbs, hostels, and you have apps like Couchsurfing, for example. So the way I think about this list in my head is the top of the list is the most expensive, yet the most comfortable and secure accommodations, whereas the bottom is the cheapest, yet least comfortable and maybe not as secure in terms of safety. If you want to strike a good balance between affordability and comfort and security, I would generally say go with an Airbnb. Airbnbs are also nice because usually they're more unique. Like you can find some amazing Airbnbs that are going to be so much cheaper than just buying a hotel room. I can get an entire house, an entire apartment, condo, whatever, for the same price that I'm gonna get like a guest room in a hotel, like not even the presidential suite. Now I can't really talk about hostels because I've never stayed in a hostel and I don't think I ever will, but some hostels do give you the option of having a private bedroom. Now Couchsurfing is an app where you could reach out to people in like a local city and they would pretty much host you for free. They'll take you out, you get to meet their friends, and you pretty much go, you don't have to pay for accommodation, but you're living on a stranger's couch. If you're going for your first solo trip, I would say go for a more secure option, and then maybe as you gain some experience going on solo trips, then try an option like Couchsurfing or hostels. Also, depending on how long you're staying, I would say try out different accommodations so that you get different vibes, you can stay in different neighborhoods, and you have a pretty much like well-rounded experience. So now we get to one of the most important parts of this entire video, and that's safety. So the first thing is keeping your family and friends informed at all times. Always share your itinerary with 3 important people. So whether that's your best friend, your partner, your parent, share your itinerary with people that are actually going to be keeping up with you. So this is generally how I write out my itinerary. I'm very detailed. I have my flights, I have the information from my Airbnb, such as the address, the contact information of the owner of the Airbnb. I have every single day written out with all the details of what I'm gonna do during the day, just so that people are aware of what I'm doing, they can check up on me. And I'm gonna be checking in with people every few hours to let them know what I'm up to. At the end of the day, I'm always gonna let somebody know at the end of the day, like I'm safe, I'm about to go to bed, see you in the morning. So if you have an iPhone, I would highly encourage you to indefinitely share your location with the same people that you share your itinerary with. Throughout the day, if they really care about you, they'll be checking to see your location every few hours just to make sure that you're still on the map, make sure you're still good. And you want to make sure that your medical ID is up to date and that your emergency services on your iPhone is enabled, okay? Make sure that that's on. Now, the previous tips are not gonna work if you don't have strong and reliable internet connection the whole time. I'm just gonna say this right now. Don't rely on the Wi-Fi of your hotel or Airbnb or any other establishments, because half of the time they don't work well. If you're American and you're traveling to like US, Canada, PR, Hawaii, you might not even need to do anything. Data might just already be included in those countries. But if you're traveling outside of those countries, usually the big cell phone companies, AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, all those big companies, normally they have some type of international plan where you can pay by the day or pay per use when you're abroad. So make sure that you get that taken care of before you get to your destination. If that option is too expensive, you might want to consider getting a local SIM card once you land at the airport of your destination. The only drawback with that is that you won't be able to receive any calls or texts from your normal phone number. If worse comes to worse, then your last option would be to get a portable Wi-Fi hotspot. That's just inconvenient. Don't do that. Just get one of the other two options, please. Lastly, is you're gonna want to consider getting travel insurance for any unlikely situations where you might have an emergency, because you never know. Now, I'm gonna go through a list of some really important things that I believe that you should bring. All of these things are not absolutely necessary, but I encourage you to bring most or all of them. Now, you're gonna wanna make sure you bring a physical copy of your government issued ID. If you're traveling internationally, that's gonna be a passport. If you're traveling domestically, that's gonna be a driver's license or a state issued ID. Now, if you're a student, I also encourage you to bring your school ID, because you'll be surprised how many people are offered discounts for like museums or restaurants or other fun stuff. So make sure you bring your student ID. Other things to bring, make sure you bring a charger pack. You're gonna wanna bring a first aid kit. Any medications that you need, or if you have allergies, bring an EpiPen. If you're gonna be getting risky, make sure you bring condoms, birth control, emergency contraceptive. Now, in the very unlikely event that somebody tries to pull up on you, you're gonna need to make sure that you're prepared. For me, that means bringing a pepper spray and a pocket knife. I always carry those two things with me all the time. I also carry a fake engagement or like wedding ring, so that if somebody thinks about messing with me, they will think twice. May God bless me with a real one soon so I don't have to engage in this fraudulent activity. Now, during your trip, you're gonna wanna set aside at least a few hours to just spend some really quality time with yourself. Bring a book or a journal, a sketch pad or a religious book, anything, just so that you can make sure that you're just having some alone and quality time with yourself. You want to make sure that you bring a wireless and portable speaker. And if you have any friends that are very music savvy, make sure you ask them to send you some really good vacation playlists. Now we're gonna get to all the good to know stuff. Firstly is how to make friends. If you're somebody like me and you're like a social butterfly and you like to get to meet new people and you just need some type of human interaction sometimes, I'm gonna give you some tips on how to make friends when you're traveling alone. Now, the easiest and most natural way to make friends is staying at an accommodation that's like a boutique hotel or that's like a hostel. When you stay in these environments, there's gonna be other people around you, and when people see you by yourself, they might come up to you, or you might wanna come up to other people. And if you're in a hostel, most people are traveling alone, so it'll be a lot easier to make friends that way. Additionally, something that I did before I went to my trip is I went to Instagram and I typed in my destination and I looked at all the recent photos. And I clicked on pages that I thought that I would want to hang out with that person based off of their feed and other similar interests. And I reached out to them and I left a comment. I said like, hey, I love your photo. Are you still in this destination? I'm going to be traveling during these dates. If you're still there, like let's link up, let's have a drink or whatever the case is. And you'll be surprised by how many people actually reach out to you. Now, there's also an app called Couchsurfing, which I mentioned previously, and people use that to get hosted so they have a place to stay. However, I used it for Hangouts. So there's a section on Couchsurfing app where you can just let people know that I'm gonna be in this destination during these dates. Like, do you want to have a hangout? The only thing is that Couchsurfing during the pandemic started charging people like $3 something to use the app. Now that's an option that you have to pay for. If you don't want to pay for that, then you might use something like Tinder if you're feeling kind of risky. Just be aware that a lot of people are just trying to hook up on the app. So be clear and let them know that you're just trying to make friends. Now this is my favorite section, how to take photos. If you're gonna go on an amazing solo trip, you're gonna want to take some bomb photos, show your future kids, like yes, your mama was a baddie. And just in general, just have really good memories. So here are my 3 tips for taking photos while you're traveling solo. First is bring a tripod. So the tripod that I actually bought from Amazon, it actually comes with a wireless remote. So all I have to do is just hook it up to my phone. You set it up wherever you want the photo to be and you just take the photos by yourself. And it also doubles as a selfie stick, but I mean, we're in 2021. I don't know why anybody would want to use a selfie stick. Don't be afraid to ask people to take photos of you. If I see a friendly face or typically a friendly couple, I'll just ask them if they can take a photo of me. Most of the time the photos come out trash, but I mean, still, at least you have some memories. If you want to deal with either of them, I would suggest you to hire a photographer. That's what I did. I went on Airbnb experiences and I actually hired a photographer through there. All you have to do is just show up cute and they're gonna handle everything else. They're gonna take the photos for you, they'll edit them, send them to you. All you gotta do is just post them. So another important tip is to know your area. I highly encourage you to download Google Maps. And with Google Maps, you're actually able to just like take a section of the map and download an offline copy of the map so that in any situation where you were to lose reception or if your Wi-Fi is weak, you're still able to get around through the offline copy that you've downloaded. You also want to make sure that you're just in general studying your surroundings and identify a unique landmark that's near your accommodation so that you're never lost. If you're going to a foreign country and you don't know the local language, you're gonna want to download some type of translate app. I use Google Translate. It's still gonna be a struggle not knowing the language, but these translate apps these days make it so easy for you to just translate a simple conversation. Before you go, you're gonna wanna make sure you consider the following 3 things that I'm about to go over with you before you touch down. 1, that's gonna be getting local currency. Number 1 rule in exchanging currency is avoid currency exchange counters. Going to an ATM is gonna be your most economical option. I'm not even gonna go through the other options because they don't make sense. Just go to an ATM. The only thing I would say is just try to go to the ATM that's at the airport of your destination. If you happen to run out of money while you're in the city or while you're in town, just try and avoid any like sketchy ATMs that's like on the street or anything like that. Always try and go to an ATM at a proper and professional establishment. Now, another thing you're gonna wanna do is research on the culture, religion, and any societal norms as to not offend or break any unspoken rules or laws. For example, you might wonder, should I wear this outfit to this event? Or should I tip when I dine in? Or should I take off my shoes or wear hijab before I enter this building? So just do research so that you know what to expect as a tourist going to this destination. You're also going to want to consider what's the safest mode of transportation while you're traveling. If the destination has Uber or Lyft, I would generally just go with that. I feel like they're both pretty safe. However, if they don't have rideshare and you have to rely on taxis, I would just say be very careful. So something to be mindful is this. You have to give the taxi your final destination or like where you're staying, but I wouldn't do that. I would give them the address of the place that's maybe like 4 or 5 buildings ahead of where I have to stay, and I'll just walk over to where I'm staying. Human trafficking is a real thing. Not to scare y'all, but never assume that they're gonna be friendly because they can tell that you're a tourist. So just keep your guard up around taxis. Another thing I do when I'm in the taxi is I will put on a fake phone call. I will go to my settings, go to my ringtone, and I will play the ringtone and act like I'm getting a phone call. I'd be like, hey hubby, with my fake engagement ring. Hey hubby, yeah, I'm about to be there in like 2 minutes. Please, can you just unlock the door for me because I'm actually about to start walking up the steps, okay? I'm about to be there, okay? I'll meet you there soon, bye. I literally do a whole stunt. Like, cause you just gotta let them know that somebody is expecting you, like somebody's accountable for you. If they try and snatch you up, someone will notice. Now, another option is taking public transportation. Now, there's pros and cons with this. It's gonna be cheap and there's gonna be plenty of people around, so you don't ever have to feel unsafe. But on the flip side, it's gonna probably take you forever to get there. You might have to do some transfer from bus A to bus B. And it's COVID, so whether it's the bus or train, it may be crowded. If you wanna deal with any of that, I would suggest to just get a rental car. Make sure you buy it as soon as you know your date so that you can get a really good deal. But you can pick it up at the airport. You never have to worry about giving anybody your address, and you just know that you're going to be safe because you're a safe driver. The only thing to be conscious of is parking. Make sure that your accommodation has parking, or if there's street parking or valet parking or anything like that. That might be a headache. So hopefully you don't feel like my tips were geared more for women and not for men, because everybody should be able to use these tips. And I do believe that more men should go on solo trips. Now I reach a very, very, very important topic, and that is COVID. So at the time of this recording, we are well into over a year of the pandemic. COVID-19 has been the greatest global health crisis that my generation has ever seen. During the course of us being in this pandemic for over a year, we've seen a sharp rise in mental health issues that are escalating due to people being isolated and quarantined for months on end. And I don't want to pretend like nothing is happening. However, I believe that every individual person has to make that decision for themselves. If you can travel safely with minimal exposure and you do a risk assessment and determine that it's worth it to go, I think you should do it. Because COVID is so important, we need to discuss these things. I'm going to be leaving some really helpful links of some CDC guidelines and just some other helpful articles and links that I've come across as I was planning my own solo trip, just so that you're going on the trip informed, aware, and just precautious the entire time. I'm really hopeful that this video will be helpful to you even after the pandemic. And all right, so that pretty much concludes everything that I have for you today. Whether you're someone that has never been on a trip before, I'm really hoping that this video has given you some tips that's going to give you the confidence to make that first move and plan your solo trip. And if you have been on a solo trip before, I'm hoping that you learned something so that when you go on your next solo trip, you'll be safer. So let me know if you enjoyed the video. If I inspired you, let us know in the comment section where you plan to go. Or if you have any other tips that you would like to share with me or anybody else watching the video, please let us know in the comment section so that everybody's aware of these tips. And again, thank you so much for choosing to be here with me today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.